Have you ever had that feeling, like things aren't quite as they seem, that maybe there's some hidden layer of manipulation happening around you? Welcome to the Deep Dive. We take complex sources, sometimes really complex, and distill them for you into essential knowledge. Today we're diving into something highly specific and frankly, deeply unsettling. It's a topic tailored for you based on sources describing a multi-year, highly deceptive program. They call it a virtually untraceable takedown program.
Yeah, and right away, it's really crucial to understand what this program isn't,
Hmm.
because it gets mistaken for other things all the time.
Okay, like what?
Well, it's not just, offending someone online and they send their friends after you. It's not that.
Right, not typical cyberbullying or a social media pile-on.
Exactly. And it's not just some vicious secret smear campaign, though it can feel like that. It's also not police harassment or criminal gangs or even something historical like COINTELPRO.
Which was the FPJ program, right?
Yeah.
Disrupting political groups.
Precisely. Now, don't get me wrong, group stalking can happen. A guy and his buddies harassing an ex-girlfriend, that's real. But this program the source describes, it's qualitatively different. It's not stalking in that sense.
What makes it so different then?
It's the deception that makes it incredibly hard to fight. For one thing, it often looks a lot like mental illness from the outside.
I see.
And partly because the harassment itself is designed to be really embarrassing, makes it very difficult for the person experiencing it to actually talk about it.
That makes sense. A built-in silencing mechanism.
Oh.
And you mentioned this specific program.
Hmm.
It doesn't explain everything someone might encounter.
Absolutely not. The source is very clear on this. You might have other secret things happening, weapons testing, medical experiments. Who knows, that can intersect.
Especially if this program succeeds in painting someone as crazy.
Exactly. Then authorities, potentially, can get away with a lot, as the source puts it. It's also so intense psychologically that the source understands, though definitely doesn't condone, how it could drive someone towards violence.
Okay, so our mission today is to unpack this program. We want to look at the broad outline, the stages, the tools it uses, and, well, what seems like a surprising ultimate purpose. We need to explore how perception gets manipulated and how you, the listener, might identify these magic tricks they use.
Right, and it's a highly psychological process. The source stresses that the outcomes really depend partly on the subject's own inclinations, their own mind.
Okay, let's get into the steps. You said it often starts subtly.
Yes. Step one, which is kind of an optional entry point, often begins with surveillance. You're being watched, maybe for years, but you have no idea.
Completely unaware.
Totally. Then a false flag operation kicks off. Something happens, and you're deliberately led to believe someone specific is behind it.
Like creating a scapegoat.
Exactly. You're presented with a credible personal threat, something designed to send you on a wild goose chase for years. And it has to be believable.
What kind of thing?
Oh, conflicts over money or property, maybe an online argument that suddenly feels very real world, even just a public snub that seems to escalate.
And here's where it gets really insidious.
Uh-huh. Your own imagination becomes your worst enemy. You start trying to connect dots, figure out how it all started. But the source insists. Things aren't what they seem.
So that initial explanation you latch onto, it's likely wrong. Part of the setup.
Very likely. Now, if you don't start with that obvious threat, things can kick off directly with step two, psychological operations and sensitization.
Okay, what does that involve?
Even without that initial big threat, this stage is, well, profoundly disturbing. You're subtly made aware that unfavorable things are happening behind your back.
Like what kind of things?
Minor signs of intrusion. The example given is like finding an empty styrofoam coffee cup on your porch several mornings in a row. Seems random, right?
Weird, but maybe explainable.
Maybe. But then you try to catch whoever's doing it, stay up all night, see nothing, and the next day the cup is on the roof of your car.
Oh, okay, that's different. That feels targeted, deliberate.
Precisely. That's an example of sensitization. You're being conditioned to notice these anomalies, these signals.
And made aware of surveillance, too.
Yes. Someone might casually drop very personal details from your private life into conversation, things they couldn't possibly know unless they were watching or listening very recently.
Chilling.
Then there are nonverbal messages, subtle environmental cues you're sensitized to. Gaslighting starts objects aren't where you know you left them.
Making you doubt your own memory, your sanity.
Exactly. And finally, you're made aware somehow that large numbers of people seem interested in you. Vehicles following, the same faces appearing wherever you go. It's about creating that feeling of being constantly watched, judged, and that there's some hidden message you're supposed to get.
That constant low-level hum of being watched, it must build incredible pressure. Where does it go from there?
That pressure cooker environment sets the stage for step 3, the threatening message of hostility.
Okay, this sounds like an escalation.
It is. A new message is sent, and it's much more threatening. It's not just that large numbers of people are watching you, it's that they don't like what they see.
How is that conveyed?
Through these highly manipulative demonstrations of hostility, things designed to be really memorable, really stick with you, you start getting commentary on your private actions from lots of people.
Directly. Like
Uh,
people yelling at you?
Sometimes, maybe, but often indirectly, not necessarily face-to-face. Think well-timed car alarms going off right after you do something specific in your home, or distant explosions, things like that. Synchronicity used as a weapon.
Wow. Creating this pervasive sense of judgment and menace from the environment itself.
Exactly. It's isolating and ramps up the anxiety, which then builds towards step 4, the extreme harassment episode.
This sounds like the peak. The source mentions hundreds of people sometimes in a single day. I mean, how is that even possible? And how does it stay hidden?
That's the thing. It is possible because you've been meticulously prepared for it. You've been sensitized to all these covert signs of aggression.
So you see it, but nobody else does.
Pretty much. Nobody else is going to notice it, the source says. It's incredibly disturbing for the target, but invisible to outsiders. Maybe even invisible to some of the people participating in it.
How could they not know?
We'll get to that. But the key characteristics of this phase are no escape. People follow you everywhere. They're in your face. They might check into the hotel room right next to yours.
Constant proximity.
And betrayal. People you trust, friends, colleagues, maybe even family, suddenly seem to join in, giving those same subtle signals.
Oh, that's brutal.
It is. The aim is for you to fully internalize. There is no escape. Everyone is betraying me. Total isolation, total paranoia.
And after going through that,
Yeah.
what's left? Step 5.
Step 5 is space invasion and the breaking point. The source suggests that around a year into this intense phase, you're often broken in. You become your own worst enemy, just jumping at your own shadow.
Because you're conditioned to expect hostility everywhere.
Exactly. And the intrusions continue, even intensify. Subtle signs that someone's been in your home, even if you only left for a few minutes. Space invasion is the key concept here.
Constant violation of personal space.
Yes. And even if you change your life, completely move, change jobs, the intrusions persist. Break-ins, maybe even while you're asleep. Subtle signs from new neighbors, new friends, even family members, suggesting they're somehow in on it.
This sounds like it would push anyone towards paranoia.
Absolutely. And then it gets even more disturbing. Customized television programming that seems to comment directly on your life.
Oh.
Overt electronic harassment. Evidence that you're being watched even in a supposedly secure space, like a windowless dark room.
How is that possible?
Well, at this point, the source says you're almost certainly going to conclude you've been uniquely singled out for some reason. Many targets are led over the edge after 1 to 4 years of this.
Believing what?
Believing it's maybe a neighborhood vendetta gone wild or some misuse of government resources targeting them personally. This is often when people realize they've been brainwashed, although brainwashed people don't know they've been brainwashed. That's the catch-22. Recovery, according to the source, only begins when you start to fundamentally question your perceived reality.
Wow. Okay. This whole narrative, it's terrifying.
Yep.
And the source describes it all as being a lot like a magic trick. That analogy seems chillingly accurate now. How so?
Well, there are a couple of main ways it works like magic. First, deceptive appearances. It's pure manipulation of perception.
Like stage magic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think of the classic sawing a person have illusion. What you perceive happening is an objective reality. This program relies on you assuming that everything you see, everything you feel is exactly as it seems.
And that assumption is wrong.
It's ruinous, according to the source. Your senses have been systematically deceived. That's the first principle.
Okay, and the second?
Distraction and manipulation. Just like a stage magician uses flashy gestures, jokes, patter, showmanship to distract you from how the trick actually works.
Right, keep your eyes off the mechanics.
This program does the same thing. It keeps you intensely focused on the distraction, all the bizarre details, the weird encounters, the strange objects.
The coffee cups, the car alarms, the people following.
All that stuff is the distraction.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the real trick, the core manipulation, is happening somewhere else entirely.
So the advice is, don't focus on the what, focus on the how.
Precisely. Instead of obsessing over what they seem to be telling you, that you're guilty or hated or being watched or in danger, you need to step back and focus on how you are being manipulated.
Look at the bigger picture.
Yes. Look at the pattern of the provocative messages being sent. Like the overall message might be your neighbor hates you or your boss is trying to fire you. These narratives, these believable stories, are being counterfeited by some hidden third party.
Okay, so you need to question the source of the narrative itself.
Exactly. And there are other layers of deception, too. The surveillance. You were being watched long before you were ever made aware of it.
Right.
That person you think you offended, the one you blame everything on. That conflict might have been real, but a third party likely exploited it specifically to pin everything on that person. They set them up as the scapegoat.
So the things you saw, the evidence pointing to them.
Were intended to be seen. They were planted for you to find. And all that street theater, those obvious, sometimes humiliating performances in public,
Yeah.
they're staged. They want you to see them as public humiliation. The messages, look at this. We're putting on a show just for you. Pay attention.
But it's still part of the distraction.
It is. And chillingly, the source suggests there might have been other staged episodes you didn't even recognize as theater at the time, but which subtly changed your views or helped along the brainwashing process.
This is incredibly elaborate. So
Mm.
if it's all a magic trick, what happens when the final step is revealed? What's behind the curtain?
Well, for some targets, a much simpler explanation manifests. Though apparently many misinterpret it, or they never even get to that point. And even when it's revealed, it can still look like mental illness to outsiders.
But it's something else.
It's something else. The final step, according to this source, involves obvious electronic harassment becoming undeniable.
How so?
Things like instantaneous feedback from electromagnetic sources. Stuff that just can't be explained by coincidental car alarms anymore. It's clearly technological.
So electronic harassment might have been happening earlier, but subtly.
Possibly, yes. Or it might have been disguised as actions taken by the people you thought were harassing you. The source even suggests there might be real bombardment with energy weapons early on.
Okay.
But later, you'll be getting something else, but you'll think it's the energy weapons that were used earlier. More deception.
And then comes the really big reveal.
Yes. You're made aware somehow that your mind is being read, which, as the source notes, is quite shocking.
I can only imagine.
And this knowledge isn't given to you freely. It's revealed on their schedule, and usually only after you're completely broke. Financially, emotionally, psychologically ruined.
So what is the big reveal? What's the secret?
The secret edge, the core of the trick, is electronic mind control technology. Technology that's usable not just on you, the target, but also on the people around you.
Mind control technology, usable on bystanders.
That's what the source claims. And they suggest this tech isn't brand new. It might go back to civilian research in the 1950s, making it potentially older and more advanced than some of the publicly discussed non-lethal weapons, although the timelines for both are murky.
So, those people who seem to be in on it, the friends, the neighbors.
Most of them, according to this, have no idea of the significance of the things they were doing. Their conscious minds just rationalize the actions that were evoked in them.
Wow, so the hostility wasn't entirely real.
Any initial real hostility or aggression might get amplified 1,000-fold through these psychological operations, and crucially, the mind control tech. A very small number of people orchestrating things can make it look like hundreds or thousands are involved.
Because they can, briefly.
Hop into a person's body and make him act out is the phrasing used. These unwitting participants don't know their actions. A specific phrase, a gesture, being in a certain place are significant to you. So from your perspective, you see all this unprovoked, erratic, hostile behavior coming from everywhere.
Changes everything. It reframes the entire experience. But the source also mentioned that not everything fits this framework, right? There can be real-world violence or other factors.
Exactly. It's important. This isn't a one-size-fits-all explanation. There can be genuine physical assaults, even gunplay, especially early on, perhaps driven by more typical motives like money disputes. The source admits it's hard to know where the real thing ends and the purely psychological factors begin.
And other types of electronic harassment, too. Not just mind control.
Yes, depending on the resources available to whoever is running the operation against a particular target, the source gives examples like infrared spotlights being used to heat homes, perhaps near military bases, or microwave emitters causing electrical shorts and fires, citing a specific case, Robert Tanzay in Texas.
But there are caveats about these claims, too.
Big caveats. If someone alleges energy weapon torture, but there are absolutely no physical traces, you have to question if it's happening the way they perceive it. Even if there are effects, basic physics applies. Meaning high-frequency radiation, even up to X-rays, is actually easily blocked by simple materials. The source uses plywood as an example, referencing how even military systems like the 95 gigahertz active denial system can be blocked by a board.
Okay.
And if it's microwave radiation causing pain, like a microwave burn, well, you should theoretically be able to deflect it with something simple like aluminum foil, and you'd expect to see sparks, just like putting foil in a microwave oven. Low-frequency radio signals are generally dismissed as a credible explanation for these kinds of direct harm effects.
Right. Important reality checks there. Okay, so connecting this back, the source identifies 4 basic kinds of tools used in this specific takedown program. What's the first one?
Tool number 1 is the mind control, mind reading infrastructure itself.
The technology we just discussed.
Yes, but framed as an infrastructure. There's no reliable public info on how it works, apparently just layers of disinformation. It seems usable on many people, though maybe not absolutely everyone. Targets might be subtly herded into areas where the tech is more effective, heavily controlled areas.
And its purpose in the program.
It's used to make the people around the target act out, give those confusing signs they're in on it, and even just herd crowds into the target's vicinity to create that constant illusion of being watched and followed. The source says the mere existence of such an infrastructure should be creepy enough. It suggests you've stumbled onto something much bigger than just your personal problem.
Definitely creepy. Okay, tool number 2.
A reasonably small number of actual human operatives, boots on the ground.
Why are they needed if there's mind control?
For the things that can't easily be explained by mind control or faked. Physical actions, like actual break-ins when the target is definitely away from home. Planting things, maybe overt surveillance in some cases.
And these aren't the main players?
Generally not. They have other things to do, the source says. They're typically temporary, brought in for specific tasks. Their main purpose might just be to firmly plant the idea in the target's mind that people are physically messing with their property. That helps sell the later, more subtle tricks.
Which brings us to tool 3, a collection of standardized tricks.
Yes. And what's fascinating here is, well, like any good magic trick, it involves distraction. You have to look beyond the obvious distraction. Mind control just adds a whole new, powerful dimension to these tricks.
Can you give some examples from the source?
Sure. One is attributing intrusion. You find objects moved in your house, clear evidence someone was there. But what if you were actually mind controlled to move them yourself, maybe while asleep, and then made to forget?
Whoa. Okay, that's disturbing. Using you against yourself.
Exactly. Another one is called causality inversion. You do something, maybe make a specific phone call or post something online, and immediately there seems to be a huge reaction. Maybe something on TV seems to directly reference it. Makes you feel like vast resources are focused just on you.
Right. Makes you feel important or incredibly targeted.
But in reality, a handler, someone monitoring you with the mind-reading tech, knew what you were about to do, or maybe even subtly prompted you to do it, and then orchestrated the apparent reaction beforehand, perhaps using mind control on media figures or just clever timing. They invert cause and effect.
So they make you act first to fit their pre-planned event.
Precisely. One more example. Faked energy weapon burns. You might develop what looks like a burn, maybe even seeming to penetrate walls like a laser. Could it be a real energy weapon? Maybe. But it could also be a burn inflicted painlessly much earlier, maybe chemically or thermally, with mind control used later to create the intense sensation of pain right when they want you to notice it. Or, another theory mentioned, maybe microscopic metal granules were somehow injected under your skin earlier. Then, a low-power microwave beam, which can pass through walls, hits those granules, superheats them instantly, causing a localized burn from the inside out.
These tricks are incredibly sophisticated and layered. It really emphasizes the need to question perceived reality.
Absolutely. And that ties into the fourth tool, a disinformation ecosystem.
So what does that mean?
It means there's this enormous cloud of misleading information surrounding this whole topic, deliberately created to confuse both the target and the general public.
Where does this disinformation come from?
Well, here's the kicker. The source claims the biggest source of disinformation is often the targets themselves.
How can that be?
Because targets are often desperate for official acknowledgement, for vindication. So they tend to grab onto and spread anything that looks official or sounds authoritative or just seems credible, maybe confirming their worst fears.
But it's not reliable information.
According to this source, there is no reliable, authoritative information about these matters publicly available. What is out there is largely speculation, flat-out fabrication, and the testimony of targets. Targets who often got their information from the least trustworthy people in the world, their handlers.
So the handlers are feeding them false narratives, which they then spread.
Yes, and targets are sometimes used, perhaps unwittingly, to scapegoat other groups, blaming everything on, say, supernatural forces or aliens, whatever fits the handler's agenda.
And this ecosystem, it's becoming more public.
Increasingly, yeah, it's put in their faces, turned into profitable entertainment, thinking TV shows, movies, books that might touch on these themes, often in a sensationalized or misleading way.
So how does someone resist this if you're caught in it?
Resistance requires adopting the mindset, understanding the deception, constantly looking beyond the distractions, and crucially, refusing to become part of their edifice of disinformation. The source suggests if they can't profit from you, can't use you to spread their narratives, they might eventually let you go.
And communication between targets.
Deliberately kept apart, the source claims. Forced to communicate verbally, maybe on monitored phone lines or online forums where words are misleading and easily manipulated or misinterpreted.
And the idea of hard targeting.
That refers to focusing intense harassment, maybe including severe physical assaults, on just a few individuals. Why? To drive those individuals onto conference calls or online platforms where their genuinely terrifying experiences serve to terrify other targets. It's a form of psychological warfare, akin to how 9/11 aimed to terrorize a much larger population than just those directly affected.
So the suffering of a few is weaponized against the many. Okay, we've covered the stages, the tools, the magic tricks. This brings us to the core question. What is the ultimate purpose of this incredibly elaborate, deceptive, and damaging program?
Right, this raises the important question, why? Why go to all this trouble? Well, first off, those initial narratives about why you were targeted, the bar argument, the money dispute, whatever believable story they planted,
Yeah.
they're lies. Simple as that. There's no possible payoff, the source argues, that could justify all those people watching you and following you for years on end. Those stories are just part of the setup, part of the discreditation process.
So trying to figure out why me is another trap.
It often leads to answers that sound like mental illness, delusions of grandeur, because the real reasons, if this source is correct, are much bigger. Now, the source does concede some targets really are special in some way. Maybe they knew too much or were a genuine threat, but these are presented as exceptions.
So for most people caught in this specific program, what is the system's true purpose?
The source uses the classic formulation. The purpose of a system is what the system does. And what this system does is work relentlessly to demonize targets of mind control abuse.
Demonize them how?
By making them look crazy. By associating any discussion of mind control with paranoia and delusion. The source gives a specific, though potentially controversial, example. Rachel Maddow putting on a tinfoil hat on a major network to portray an opponent as mentally ill. Whether you agree with the politics or not, the source uses it to illustrate the tactic of using crazy imagery to shut down discussion.
So the modern version of follow the money might be.
Follow the ridicule. Where is the public ridicule being directed? That might show you what they're trying to hide or discredit.
And the program actively engineers this ridicule.
Yes, it uses distraction and disinformation. It's like building straw men with one hand and demolishing them with the other, all to distract people from the real issues, the real capabilities being hinted at.
Which are?
Electronic mind control. The overall purpose, for this specific program at least, is to make anyone trying to expose operations pertaining to mind control in the U.S. look ridiculous.
So they want the targets going public with wild stories.
They absolutely want targets on those conference calls, sharing their fragmented, confusing, often terrifying experiences. They want them rushing to the public with misleading or outlandish explanations for what's happening to them. Because the creation and dissemination of that confusing, easily dismissed testimony, that is the real purpose of the program. It inoculates the public against believing any real disclosure might bring.
That's a profoundly cynical and manipulative goal.
It is. And again, final clarification. This is presented as one specific program. It's not a grand unified theory of targeting. Many people experiencing harassment might be subject to other things entirely. Some are genuinely being targeted for nefarious reasons unrelated to this specific make them look crazy objective.
But for those who have experienced the pattern described here,
they now potentially understand the truth about what can be done with electronic mind control and critically where they get their power from.
Which is where?
Their power comes from their ability to grab and hold your attention, to make you focus on the distractions they create. So, the final thought from the source is, if you're struggling with things like neighborhood harassment or friends and family who seem inexplicably complicit, just keep in mind, things aren't necessarily as they seem.
We have certainly taken a deep dive today into an incredibly complex, layered, and deeply unsettling topic,
Yeah.
exploring these stages, the deceptive tools, and that surprising, almost paradoxical purpose of this untraceable takedown program.
Yeah, understanding that deception really is the name of the game here, and realizing just how profoundly perception can be manipulated, it fundamentally changes how you might look at events that seem completely inexplicable otherwise.
It really does. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it definitely raises an important question for you, the listener. What other realities might be being synthesized around us, perhaps more subtly? And how can you cultivate the kind of critical mindset needed to truly see through them?